prophecies still being to be fulfilled, but he also, I think he has an idea of already not yet, and he gave a comment to me in another one of his videos that shows that that's the view he holds with his regarding his hermeneutic regarding Scripture. So first I just want to talk a little bit about the Pardes system, which is actually from the oral tradition of the interpreting of Torah, the hermeneutical system, which also we can see its roots in some of its reemergence in the Kabbalistic tradition also, for how in the rabbinical traditions also how to interpret the Torah, and by implication also the revealed prophets, how there could be a literal pashat or plain sense that may have been fulfilled in the contemporary historical situation of the time, but then also there was a secret, deep secret mystery to be revealed, the Sud, which of course is always Jesus Christ. And Revelation says that the spirit of prophecy is Jesus Christ. So I do acknowledge that when there could be, I don't want to say dual fulfillment because we're going to talk about already not yet, but there could be instances where there were, for example, we may find a prophecy that may have talked about Isaiah's son being a sign in the days of Amos, but then also it being fulfilled in the virgin birth of Jesus Christ. Another example would be prophecies in Isaiah that seem to be talking about Cyrus, the king of Persia, but then we find out in the New Testament that this is the anointed servant of the Lord, which turns out to be Jesus the Christ. So these kind of themes are definitely worthy of discussion, I think. But the Pardes system, once we see Jesus Christ revealed in the New Testament, once he's came, been incarnated, worked, gave his word, done all that he's been commanded to do by the Father, and when it was all finished, after that, prophecies regarding the coming and the advent and the work of Christ are already been realized, the gospel. So we have an open revelation as far as those things go. And when we talk about the New Testament writers who use the same apocalyptic language concerning his second coming, it is still an open revelation because we know who the Lord is as far as him being revealed in the person of Jesus Christ being incarnated once on earth, and also appearing in his glorious form hereafter. So 4096X also talks about how regarding the word stoikon and the elements of the world, it suggests that yeah, there is a material basis for the word, or the word could mean material ordered cosmos, that is the material atoms or elements. That this isn't necessarily a modern meaning to the word stoikon, and his appeal is basically to Epicureans and other philosophers from the ancient Greece that had this idea of elements. So definitely the Hellenistic world did have influence from Greek culture and Greek philosophy, but when it comes to the zealous New Testament writers who had their background that may have been influenced by Persia or Greece, but when it comes to the scripture and theology, definitely the basis for how they understood those terms is going to be revealed in other. For example, Paul makes it clear that when he uses the term, it's clear what he means by the Jewish economy, the Jewish order, the Levitical system, those kind of basic elements of the Jewish system. So it's from that background, even though the audience isn't the same, they still had a Jewish background, and especially more so with Peter, so, and especially the audience also. So whether the writers of the New Testament, whether Peter was that immersed in Greek philosophy, I'm not sure if that's necessarily shown here in the writers of the New Testament or in these passages, but the use that I did, the hermeneutical application that I did for using that word stoikon and using Scripture to interpret Scripture is actually, there's a precedent for that. It's called the rule of faith. And when we regard the Scripture as one integral writ, we can use analogy of faith to see how in some usages where a word or phrase or something may be not so clear, we can look at the whole of Scripture to elucidate the meaning, because God has divinely decreed or ordered in such a way that we could do that where it's one integral revelation. Now, I do agree that the immediate context is definitely key, as 4096X points out, but these are, when we talk about apocalyptic language, to look at the usage of these terms in that colloquial setting, that's actually the grammatical historical method. So there's definitely a precedent for that.